This is the Mental Mettle Podcast, and I am your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm a former athlete, teacher, coach, and athletic director that switched careers after surviving cancer and a stroke in the fall of 2020. But I'm also a dad of a son and a daughter that were successful high school athletes that went on to college. Now I use that experience along with my ICF coaching certification when helping teams, coaches, and athletes from all over the country. Each week, I will pose a specific question that will help coaches of all types better understand mental toughness. In the Mental Mettle Podcast, coaches will learn to help their athletes overcome adversity without being the adversity they need to overcome. Mettle is a person's ability to face adversity in a spirited and resilient manner. It is a great skill to have for athletics and for life, but it is not something we are born with. If you want it, you have to forge your mettle. And if you listen to the Mental Mettle Podcast, you already know that, but not everybody else does yet. So help me out by ordering and wearing some sweet The Mental Mettle Podcast gear. We've got short sleeve tees, long sleeve tees, and some super comfortable hoodies. Order online today and you can have your gear in no time. But the best part is that every order helps support the show and helps me spread the message that mental toughness is a trait that can and should be built. So find the link in the show notes, order your gear, and start showing that you know how to forge your mettle. And welcome back, Metalheads. It's Matt Thomann, Coach Matt Thomann here at the Mental Mettle Podcast, and here with a podcast today. I think a lot of my podcasts geared toward coaches. I have a lot of parents listen. I have a lot of athletes listen. But a lot of it's geared for coaches. And what I've got coming up is a 3-part series where I'm going to be really aiming at parents. Now, obviously, if you're a coach, go ahead and listen because I think it's a lot of stuff that you can pick up, a lot of the stuff you'll hear me talk about, but this is how you can address it with your parents. So honestly, coaches, it is a good episode for you because a lot of times we don't know how to address parents as a coach. We don't know how to address the parents on what we think is best for the best way to them to be fans, right? We want our parents to be that, not have to be a coach and enjoy it. But we all know that if you are a parent, if you've been a parent, if you got kids playing, it's hard just to be a fan. So you got to find that mix. You try not to be a coach, but you're not just a fan, you're a parent. What's the right way to do it? And so I've got a 3-part series coming up. I've been coaching athletes now for going on 3 years here. That's from the mental coaching stuff. I've been coaching years before that, but I've been doing the mental coaching stuff for a while now. And just through the training, the coach training that I got, an ICF certified coach, but also from the experience and what I've picked up from working with athletes, working with really great coaches in this podcast and going to places and picking up stuff. This is basically all I do is working on how to develop mental toughness with athletes. And I've got some pretty good tips here, pretty concise tips for parents and how to use their praise to raise mentally tough athletes. And that's what I'm going to be talking about here the next few episodes. No guests. You're just going to listen to me, but I think I'm taking up a lot from past guests and sessions I do with athletes. So it's really good stuff. There's going to be some really good tips for coaches, for parents in here. And of course, if you're a parent, you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I'm going to listen, but I know my kid really isn't going to listen to me on this stuff. A couple things. One, I agree. I've been there. I get it. I think there's some sort of genetic component and it's evolutionary thing where it's like kids are supposed to not listen to your parents so they get away from them. And I don't know if there's something there or not, but regardless, it's normal, right? If you're like, hey, my kid never listens to me, I get it. You become white noise. But I would also say that they're listening. Even if it doesn't feel like they're hearing you, they're listening. They're picking up what you got to say. You just got to keep saying it. And, but that's a good and a bad, because if you're doing it the wrong way, if it may look like they're not listening to you, but they're picking up stuff that quite honestly can damage their mental toughness and damage their mindset around stuff. And it happens. As parents I get a lot of questions from parents on what should I be saying to my kid? What should I not be saying? What should I be doing? And again, this 3-part series coming up is a mix of stuff I've learned from my training in positive psychology and what I've learned from having confidential one-on-one conversations with athletes on what they'd like to get from their parents, what works, what doesn't work, and just how we can do that. So, but the first thing I think we got to remember is, what is that mental toughness that we're looking for? And why is that so beneficial? And why does it seem that today's athlete doesn't have it? You hear people say that all the time. You see coaches say it, and that today's athlete is just mentally weak. And I don't know if I agree with that or not, but it does seem to be a problem. And there's a couple things with that. Well, first of all, let's agree on this, that today's athlete is bigger, faster, and stronger than a generation before. I don't think that's up for debate. The things, as I go around and I watch athletes of different ages, the things that kids, and I say kids, but some of them are big, strong, large individuals, the things that they can do at an earlier age is amazing. I, as a dad here, and you guys listening to me, I know that you like to say, well, I could have beat my kid and blah, 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 I'm better. Probably not, right? They're bigger, faster, stronger. And that makes a big difference. And it makes sense when we start thinking about the money and the time and the effort that we put into athletics now. When we put it into kids, what do we put it into? We try to develop their physical ability. We get them in the gym more. We get them stretching more. We get them doing a lot of these things. We're really getting them trying to get that quickness, that explosiveness, all those things. We get them in the gym more. We send them to more camps. We're working on that skill set. We're really working on that physical body and that skill set. And they play more games. The travel, baseball, basketball, volleyball, they're getting out there. They're lifting. They're going to camps. They're playing. So it's not surprising that they're bigger, faster, stronger, and have amazing skills at these ages, because that's where we put the time and money. And we've focused on 2 of the 3 things you need to be really great at something. We've focused on the physical ability, and we've focused on the skill set. Where we don't spend our time, effort, and money is on the mental part. And that's what you have to have. And quite honestly, that's the key that unlocks a lot of this. So when somebody says to me that kids aren't as tough as they used to be, we can argue or not argue that, but it makes sense. They play more games. They're under more scrutiny. They have more pressure. They have to spend more time doing it to keep up with everybody else. There's more videos of it. There's more social media of it. The expectations are there. We have all these things there we're putting on it, and we're not doing anything to help them overcome some of those extra stressors and pressure that we're putting on them, or society's putting on them. So, yeah, it's not a surprise, right? Think about yourself in your life, in your job. The more stress, the more expectations you have on you, the more it breaks you down. And we're doing this with kids at a super young age, all the way through high school, college, and then we're surprised when they struggle, and it is a struggle. And I think COVID exacerbated that a little bit, caused a little bit of a problem. Of course, there were a lot of stories of what COVID did, but I think it went beyond that. I think that COVID and the quarantine and some of that stuff, and getting kids away from that stuff wasn't good mentally. But what they found is, they've done some studies in NCAA that hey, even though we're a few years removed from COVID, it really hasn't, like the stress and anxiety hasn't gone back down. So it's something I think we need to focus on if we're going to continue to put these kids in these really tough situations with a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations. We have to start working on it. We have to start developing some tools for them to deal with that extra stress, that extra pressure. If not, we're going to get what we see. We get kids break down in college, like top of their game athletes that quit or worse, have some real serious mental issues. We have a lot of kids just quit playing, not enjoying it. Causes a lot of animosity between the kid and the parent a lot of times. So if we're going to continue, and I'm not against getting them bigger, faster, stronger. I love athletics. I love seeing what kids can do, but I think we're doing a disservice if we don't allow them to develop some mental toughness tools. And I think it's, as I like to say, as the adults in the room, it's our responsibility. And also, if we're going to say that kids are not mentally tough, kids are kids. If they're not mentally tough, it's because of what we're doing. We're creating a situation that causes them to be mentally weak. Again, with those stressors, those pressures, and not giving them the opportunities to develop that mental toughness. And I know what the old school idea is. It's like, well, we'll just give them more adversity until they get tough. That can work with some kids. That can work with some people, but you lose a lot of people that could have developed it and become great and actually used athletics. And the goal of athletics is not just to win every game and only to weed out who's super strong and who's mentally tough. The goal of athletics, especially youth athletics, is to give them the opportunity to face that adversity and become better. So if we're just saying, hey, well, this kid's not tough, so he can't play for me, or he'll never make it, who are we to be able to do that? Why is that our job as a coach or as a parent or a society to say, well, this kid will never make it? Well, how about we help them? How about we give them some opportunities to grow that mental toughness and see and understand what it is? Most things, just like mental toughness, just like a lot of physical stuff and anything to do with athletics, is genetic. Right? Some people are born with more mental toughness. Some people are taller. Some people are faster. Some people have more quickness. So we don't just look at that and say, well, they'll never make an athlete, or they'll never be able to play a sport. We see people that are lacking physical abilities all the time overcome big odds to become a really good player. Why can't we do the same with somebody who's struggling mentally, who doesn't have a lot of genetically gifted mental toughness? Because that's a thing. So it's something we need to start doing. It's something we need to start working on. Parents, is your athlete ready for the upcoming sports season? They might have the strength, the speed, and the skills, but without confidence, they could still struggle when the game is online. Skill and strength are great. They're necessary, but they're not used to their full potential without the right mentality. Confidence is key. It's the key to unlocking that full potential. And at Mental Mettle Coaching, I offer personalized sessions designed to build the confidence your athlete needs for a successful season. My proven techniques empower them to perform under pressure, both on the field and in life. Don't let a lack of confidence hold them back. Book a free session today and discover the power of confidence. Visit the website and get started on the journey to a more confident and successful athlete with Mental Mettle Coaching. Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship? Kids that are resilient and persistent and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Thomann, at Mental Mettle Coaching. And I think part of the problem is when we talk about physical strength and skill set, like see a basketball player or a football player or a volleyball player or whatever, as a society, as a culture, a sports culture, part of the reason we try to work on skill set and physical ability is because we know how to do that, right? We have a lot of information on how to develop skills for a sport, how we can start developing that at a very young age. They start working on, and these gymnasts, these Olympic gymnasts I was listening to the Olympics the other day, and they talked about an Olympic gymnast who said she got a late start. She only started when she was 6, meaning that a lot of them are starting at 3 years old, 4 years old. And so we know what it takes, and we start developing these skill sets at a very young age. And that's why we have so many gyms out there. And we have these trainers that are working on skill set, and these trainers that are helping them there, get them, again, that bigger, faster, stronger. We know how to do that. We understand the lifts they need. We know the drills they need. We know, and we can argue on what's best and what we should be doing or shouldn't be doing. But we have an idea. What a lot of people don't understand is the drills and the tools that we need to develop mental toughness. And you've heard me talk about it on this episode, on this podcast before, the idea of neuroplasticity and how important that is, and how that's the driving engine behind mental toughness. So neuroplasticity is the ability, the brain's ability to reorganize synaptic connections in your brain. And it can be in response to learning experience or for injury. Personally, I learned about it when I had my stroke, and I had, it hit my speech centers, and I could barely speak. And they said, well, you're going to be better 12 to 18 months. And they knew that because my brain would find a way to make synapse connections around the spot of my brain that died, right? It's just, our brains do that. Our brains are made of plastic. What I found out later is we can do that the learning and experience part of neuroplasticity. We can decide how we want to feel about a situation, and we can go become that. So I ask that question to my clients all the time when they talk about a situation that makes them anxious. We talk about an athlete that could be saying, hey, I'm getting up to the plate. I'm scared to even swing. I'm scared to strike out, and I'm anxious. And I'm like, how would you like to feel in that situation? And they're like, I'd like to feel confident, and I'd like to feel like I'm going to hit a home run every time, regardless of how many times I've struck out that game. I said, okay, then that's what we're going to start working towards. Now, can we ever make them always hit a home run? No, but we can make them feel confident when they go up to the plate. Neuroplasticity has to start with that decision to what you want to become. So when I ask, how do you want to be? I want to be confident at the plate. Okay, then let's get to work. I know one thing for certain. Whatever we focus on, we get better at. I'm no good whatsoever at chess. But I know that if I spend an hour a day working on my chess game, I'd get better. I'm not saying I'm going to go be a grandmaster. But if I want to get better at it, and I put time and effort into it, I'll get better at it, so long as I'm using the right tools to get there. Well, That's where these mental tools and neuroplasticity, easy for me to say, work together. We're like, hey, here's where I want to be in this situation. Here are the tools. We start doing it, and we just do it every day. And I have yet to have a situation where a kid doesn't have success in that. If they really put the time and effort into it, they see success. It's not magic sauce. It's just the way it is. Like if we focus on it and we work on something, we get better at it. So I think that people just don't understand that mental toughness is real similar to physical strength. If you want to get physically stronger and you're like, yeah, I went to the gym twice this month, I'm not really getting any bigger. Your coach would be like, well, it's because you don't come, right? You're not here, right? If you came every day or 5 times a week, you'd get stronger. And we do that and the kid does. Well, if we gave him mental tools and then they didn't do them, and we're like, oh, I did it a couple times, why would we expect them to get better? But if we give them mental tools and they work on them, they're going to see improvement, just like their physical strength, just like their skill set. So the trick is what's the tools, right? And what can a parent do about that? And this is a good time for me right here to just plug. If you're getting into this and you're like, hey, this is pretty good stuff, but I just don't know if my kid's going to listen to me or whatever, that's fine. I'll give you some tips. You can try it. But no, that's what I do. I'm here. This is my little pitch right here. Get a hold of me. If you're like, this sounds really good, but I don't know if my kid's going to listen to me or we're too far gone for that, or I'd like to have an expert do it. Hey, I get it. Whenever I get a problem with my plumbing gets backed up and I can't fix it and I figure I can't do it, I call a plumber. I call somebody. If we're in that situation where you're like, hey, my kid is really struggling, I don't think they need to hear from me. I'll do what I can, but he or she needs some help. Well, that's what I'm here for. Give me a call. But in the meantime, I'm going to give you some tips on how you can help your athlete and some ways you can do some praise, the right way to praise. Okay. The first one is the first way that we want to develop our praise is you have to make sure that your praise has the right focus. What I mean by that is your praise has to be focused on a controllable aspect of the game, of their situation. If you focus on things that are uncontrollable, that's where kids start to get some anxiety, some stress over it, versus the things that are controllable. Let me give you a list. Let's start talking about, and I always like, whenever I do this, I start giving a situation. So let's talk about like a basketball player, for instance. And the way you should make a list and what's controllable, what's not, we put things into 2 categories. Either these are all factors that can affect the success of a game, whether we win a game, lose a game, how we do. What are the factors that influence a game? And we have to put them in one of 2 categories. Either it is 100% in your athlete's control, or it is not 100% in our athlete's control. Some are obvious, some toe the line a little bit, but that's the 2 groups. That's what we have. So let me start talking about the things that are uncontrollable that can affect whether or not your kid wins or loses a game. And it's a long list. Anytime I do that, I start working with the athletes and we come up with, hey, one of the very first ones are the officials. Okay. Do officials affect the outcome of a game? Absolutely. Probably they're right behind the athletes themselves. Officials are next. The officials have a huge impact on the game. In fact, and they can swing who wins a game and who isn't. And I'm not saying they're all good or bad or whatever, but how even a really consistent official could be consistent in a way that favors one team over the other. It happens. It changes the game. And then also there's some refs are always going to make problems, or I'm sorry, not make problems, but make mistakes. So that's number one. Officials are uncontrollables. So now you start to analyze your praise, your comments at the game and when you get home. And for parents, we hit a hot button right away, right? If a lot of your thoughts, a lot of your words focus around the official, it's a problem. It's not just about how it can make you look like an idiot, and it can, trust me. What it does when your child sees you complaining about the officials, even if you say your kid, hey, don't do what I do, I can't help it, but you can't not too. I've heard parents do that as well. It gives your kid a glimpse into what you care about and what you think matters. And it makes your kid think that the only thing that matters is winning and losing, and the officials are affecting that. And your kid, believe it or not, your kid wants to see you happy. And nothing would make them happier than you winning the game. They win in the game and making you happy. But you can't be happy because an official made it so you lost the game. That makes them feel like they have no control whatsoever over the situation. And that's not what we want. So that's number one. That's the officials. And that's a big one. Right behind it is coaches, right? Like if as a parent, you are spending a lot of your time, effort, talking, complaining at home about the coach, you're complaining about something the kid has no control over. And it starts when you complain about coaches, when you complain about officials, you're starting to develop a feeling of apathy in your athlete, because they start to say, why bother? I can't win the game because the officials are lousy, and I can't win the game because my coach stinks. That sort of mindset starts to creep in. And it also lets them know that what you care about is winning. And look, I'm competitive. I like winning. I'm all about it, right? But focusing only on winning is not how you win, right? It's this weird situation where if you just want to focus on winning, it's not going to happen. And then while we're talking about winning, well, let's analyze that. Is it controllable? Is it not controllable? And remember, is it 100% controllable or not 100% controllable? And the answer is winning and losing is not up to your athlete 100%. There are so many factors, right? Again, the officials, the coaches, those things. Just the other team, you could play you could be playing great. You could be your best team you've ever had in years, and you go run into a juggernaut. It does not matter, right? They're just really good. You could be the best college team in the land, and you happen to run into a team of guys that are all going to go play for the Lakers next year, and you're going to get beat. It won't matter, right? So results are not 100% controllable. So that has to be very careful. Something we whether or not that's part of our praise. And I know that's weird because you say, well, I don't want to praise my kid for winning. Well, you can, sure. But are you still going to praise them when they lose? Because they pick that stuff up. They figure that out, right? Oh, my dad, my mom only really praises me when I win. They only care about the winning, right? So you have to change your mindset around winning and losing. Of course you want to win. Of course you want to be happy when you win. And it's tough when you lose. But if that is the focus, again, we're talking about the focus of your praise. If the focus of your praise is just about winning, they start to pick up on that. And they know that they can't control that 100%. And that's tough. There's so many things. Like even if we get into specific abilities, like hitting shots, getting a kill, getting a touchdown, hitting a baseball, kids and athletes can develop those skills and get better at them, but their results in a game is not 100% in their control. I mean, and if you argue, then go look at the athletes, the pros, the people that do it all the time, right? The best 3-point shooters in the world miss more than they make. The best hitters in the world only hit about 300. The results are not 100% controllable. There are too many factors. So it's just like wins and losses. There are too many things. We cannot focus too much on those things. There is an unbelievably long list of uncontrollable factors. It could be the venue. It could be the type of ball they used. It could be the floor. It could be the uniform. These are called excuses, right? People use them all the time. They can't affect a game, right? It can change whether you win or lose or how you perform. I get, but they can't be part of our thought process or things that we worry about. Because again, that starts to make an athlete feel like they can't do anything about it. So as a parent, you really need to start thinking about, where is your focus when I talk to my athlete about a game? When they get home after a game, what are we talking about? Well, coach should have called this play. I can't believe the ref called this. I can't believe your opponent did this to us. I can't believe your coach is running this offense. I can't believe you missed that shot at the buzzer. I can't believe you didn't do this. It's problematic. It's not something we want to start to focus our praise on. Coaches, do you dream of guiding mentally tough athletes towards a championship? Kids that are resilient, persistent, and unshaken by setbacks. Well, in today's world, those athletes aren't born. They have to be developed. Many athletes face significant challenges and risk burnout. So how do we foster that mental toughness without overwhelming them? Well, introducing the Ember to Inferno program, Building Mentally Tough Athletes. This series is designed specifically for coaches, offering a deep dive into your own journey of mental toughness and equipping you with practical tools to build confidence and belief in your athletes. Rather than just simply adding more adversity to their life, we focus on creating a strong foundation for mental resilience. You'll learn how to transform a spark of motivation into a blazing fire of toughness using techniques that address challenges like social media pressures, athletic stress, and trauma. Don't just wish for mentally tough athletes, build them. Join the Ember to Inferno program today and ignite the potential in your athletes. For more information, contact me, Coach Thomann, at Mental Mettle Coaching. Parents, is your athlete ready for the upcoming sports season? They might have the strength, the speed, and the skills, but without confidence, they could still struggle when the game is online. Skill and strength are great. They're necessary, but they're not used to their full potential without the right mentality. Confidence is key. It's the key to unlocking that full potential. And at Mental Mettle Coaching, I offer personalized sessions designed to build the confidence your athlete needs for a successful season. My proven techniques empower them to perform under pressure, both on the field and in life. Don't let a lack of confidence hold them back. Book a free session today and discover the power of confidence. Visit the website and get started on the journey to a more confident and successful athlete with Mental Mettle Coaching. But remember that there's also positive things that we have to be careful to get away from in our praise. And this is weird, but this is some new stuff. There's a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. I'd highly recommend it. And what they found about is we have to be careful as a parent, as a coach, as a teacher, what we praise for young athletes. And let me give you an example. Genetics are a huge factor in success in life, in a sport, in school, all these things. So we get a kid that shows up the first day of 6th grade basketball, and he is already 6'1" and quicker than everybody. He's going to do pretty well, right? He's going to do well. What we have to be careful with is not to praise, if you're the parent, not to praise the genetic gifts. If you say, hey, you're so tall and you're so fast. If it's the case that this kid has done nothing, the kid can't have done anything to be 6'1" in sixth grade, and a lot of his speed is probably genetic at this point. He hasn't had the time to develop it. If you are only praising that genetic gift, that's what he or she starts to believe is important. And what they're not developing is work ethic. And it's problematic. We see it a lot in kids that have a lot of gifts early on. They've started to find this stuff out with kindergartners, first graders, second graders, that if we praise the A, if we praise how well they did, their motivation starts to slip over time because that's not controllable. Kids aren't doing homework at that age. They're not. They don't come into kindergarten, first grade having done. They can done a little bit. They can read some stuff. The parent has done some work ahead of time. I get that, but it's not really something the kid has done. A lot of it's genetic gifts, and we have to be careful to praise that. It's great. It can help us win, but then again, if you focus on the winning, if you focus on whether you're winning or losing, or focusing on whether or not you get the A in class, then, and the way that they got there was through a genetic gift, they're going to be in trouble when the genetic gift is not enough. So that's that's a uncontrollable, that can be a positive that we have to be very careful of. And it also, if it's a negative, if a kid is too short, too slow, right? Don't focus on that. It doesn't do any good. Doesn't do anything about it, right? If they can get quicker, so be it. But if they're not tall enough, it doesn't do them any good. Focus on what they can control. And that's what we're going to get into next. We have to change our praise and our commentary to our kids and get away from the things that are uncontrollable and get to the things that are controllable. And it's a short list. There's a few words that we can put, but quite honestly, it all comes down to our attitude and our decisions. It's our decisions on what we're going to say, what we do, how hard we're going to work, our attitude towards the adversity that comes towards us, and those sort of things. Focusing on those and making your praise focused on the effort and the attitude is the way to help your kid. It is the way to help your kid improve. It is teaching them the right way to improve. I know that it feels like you're not doing much, and it feels hollow, especially if you're like, hey, I'm going to praise my kid. Hey, you had a great game out there, buddy, and they lost 8-0, right? A T-ball game. The kids are going to feel like that's not real. But that's why it's so hard for you to do that. And why it's so important for you to do that. Keep away from the results. Don't be thinking about praising the results. Praise the effort regardless of the result. That's what I was saying before with the praising the wins and losses. Like, if you want to praise your kid because they did great and they got a huge win, absolutely, you should do that. I love that. You should have the same enthusiasm when they show the same effort and lose the game. It should be no different. Have an idea of what you're going for. And I think that that's a good idea of what you can talk to your kid about. So this changing mentality and changing mental toughness is all about having intentional activities and intentional focus. So talk to your kid. Make a list of the things that are controllable. What is my effort going to be this week? What's my attitude going to be this week? What's it going to be in practice? How many times am I going to get to the gym? How hard am I going to work there? When I get into a game, what's my mannerisms going to be? What's my attitude? What's my hustle level? Have conversations about that with you. Absolutely. Be intentional about that. Talk to your kid about what they want, what you want. Make it a joint decision. Yeah, here's what I think is going to be the best chance for me to have success when I play a game. I'm going to do this. And then that's what you're looking for. That's what you're praising. And that's what you're talking about after. So I think it's okay. And I think you should, as a parent, have expectations for your kid. Hey, if I'm going to play baseball, if I'm going to play basketball, if I'm going to play football, and you're going to drive them everywhere and put this time and effort in, and your kid says, hey, they really want it, then I think it's fine. Have the expectations, but just have the expectations be something controllable and something that you guys agree on. All right. When I play a game, I am going 100% and I'm giving all my effort and I'm going to do it with a smile on my face. Absolutely. I got it. Tommy, I'm going to watch your game and that's what I'm looking for. And we can have a conversation about it afterwards. Hey, you gave 100%. I saw the smile on your face. There was one time you missed a shot and I saw you kind of droop your shoulders and, you got a little frown, but let's see if we can work on that and let's get better at that. And then kid can say, okay, let's do that. That gives us something to work on, something to focus on. And that's what we want. That's what you're looking for. So hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that is something you can employ into your praise to your kid, how you're going to work with them. And if I struck a nerve a couple times, then so be it. Right? If all you are doing as a parent is complaining to your kid about the coaches and the refs and the officials, you are driving you're driving that mental weakness. You're not developing that mental toughness in a kid. Right? They have to be focusing on things they can control. And that needs to be, it's such a positive environment when a kid knows this is what I need to do. This is in my control and I go do it. And that's what we want. Because that's what we want to win. That's what we want in our athletes. That's what we want in our employees, our husbands, wives. That's what we want is people that notice what they can do, understand what they can do, have a goal, and then go get it. And that's what we're looking for. And forget all the noise, all the nonsense, all the uncontrollables, those uncontrollables, focusing on those uncontrollables. That's where our anxiety comes in. That's where our expectations get squashed. That's where we have those ugly fights with our kids and those long drives home. It's tough. So do your best to change that, change your focus, make sure that your praise is about the controllables. And join me next week. We're going to move into 2 more areas, how we can make better praise for our athletes and how we can help them. And again, if you're interested in this stuff and you're like, hey, this is good, but I think I need a little help, I'm here, Coach Thomann, Mental Mettle Coaching. Give me a call. I'd love to help, see what I can do. First session is always free because quite honestly, I want to make sure it's a good fit for me and the athlete. So nothing gained, nothing lost. Just give me a call and we'll give it a shot. So once again, this has been the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann, and always remember to forge your mettle. Thanks again for listening to the Mental Mettle Podcast, produced by Coraggio Media, sponsored by QuickCut, a video management platform for every level of play, and by Mental Mettle Coaching, helping athletes learn to face adversity in a spirited and resilient way. The Mental Mettle Podcast is created each week to help players develop more mental toughness, and that is something that will help all of us. So help me out and like and share the Mental Mettle Podcast with your friends. Until next time, keep forging your mettle.